sharing, that's why. Alrighty, now we're ready for real. Okay, so today, depending on our technology working for us, we are going to talk about behavioral therapy. So my goal for today is to run you through what you need to know, the basics down and dirty CBT. Okay? And then after we're done with all that, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about your next week. Okay? So that you have exactly what you need to know. Okay? That's the plan. We're gonna watch a little bit of Stan, and CBT with Stan as well. All right? But to get us sort of warmed up, we're gonna do a little exercise, group exercise for CBT that I think I've told you this before, I like to teach people how to do CBT based on how I teach it to my clients, because really CBT is one of those great models that you teach them how to do it so that then they can do it and then they don't need you anymore. So that's what we're gonna do. So does anybody want to volunteer? Two volunteers. Come first thing in the morning, right up here. Yeah? Okay, we got one.
She's going under.
She's going under.
She's just going under.
Okay.
We're just in that day.
All right. Come on, one more volunteer. Anyone? All right. Take this chair. Oh, there we go. All right. You don't mind if we put little stickers on you, do you?
No, I love stickers. But...
Are you okay with stickers? All right, good. All right. I've done this with lots of groups, and we do group CBT. And people love it. It's even better when you have candy, which I don't first thing morning. So what we're going to do is just, it's really helpful to understand that oftentimes the way we're feeling is related to the labels that we put on ourselves. Right? And the things that we're telling ourselves, when we move away from behavioral therapy, we move into this zone of that there's a mediator between that stimuli response that we talked about last week, right? And what happens is between the activating event, there's a thought process that happens, and then that's really responsible for our emotional reaction, okay? So we just have to keep that in mind, that it's always the thought process that is impacting how we're feeling, okay? So we're going to do a little illustration, and this doesn't have anything to do with them, okay? So we're going to be throwing out some words that we just want you to put up your emotional shield, because it really has nothing to do with you. There you go. There it is. Okay. All right. So let's start out. Like if you were thinking negative thoughts, right? Somebody who might be thinking negatively about themselves, what might they say? Now again, it has nothing to do with either one of these lovely folks. But come on, you know what you say to yourself or other people. I mean, you know they say like you're ugly, right? I've all heard isn't it horrible, right? It has nothing to do with either one of you. Keep that in mind. Oh. Go ahead. I'm not good enough. Oh, not good enough? Say this all the time, right? Okay. I'm just going to hand it to you. All right. No, you don't get anything.
Oh, I was going to share it on. Oh.
No, I'm not calling it.
Okay,
You
okay.
can share it later. Okay. Worthless, yeah? What else do we got? Oh, stupid. Yeah, what else? Just call them out. I can write them. We got that one. Unlovable. Lazy. That's 3 is 9. Oh, all right, go ahead. Unworthy. I know we're in social workers, so nobody wants to say it. It's not about them right now. Okay. You do. I appreciate that. Okay, go ahead. Dirty. What else? Wow, people usually can roll these off. I mean, people, right? I'm impressed that you're having trouble. Right? That, okay, yeah, that one's put on there. So what else? What else we got? What was that? Inadequate. Anyone else? Yeah, untrustworthy. Okay. One more. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. Okay. You feel it? Okay.
The helpfulness.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So who's your thinking? Michael. So how do you think Michael he walks around in the world and he's got all these labels that he filters everything that happens to him through. Ouch, right? So when something happens, like a friend doesn't call, or he doesn't get an invitation to the party, or he fails one exam, or his partner or whomever says, or your parents say, oh, you know what? Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, you really bothered me, right? He's like, oh my gosh, I'm unreliable. I'm incompetent. I mean, so how do you think he walks around feeling? Pretty bad. Yeah. Like in a continuous emotional turmoil because these are the labels that he has all over him. He filters every single thing that happens to him through these labels. Right? Right. He might be sick from your head stuff right now. Yeah. Because it's hard to walk around like that. Yeah. Okay. So let's switch gears. I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go over here. Okay. So now, here we are. Let's think about some good things. Confident. Yeah, capable. Smart. Charismatic. Thoughtful. What was that one back there? Helpful. Yeah. Energetic. Yeah. Well,
Cool.
responsible. What do you got? What do you got? Sexy. On time. Yeah. Passionate. Okay. How do you think that Angela now, Angelica, sorry, walks around? She sees the world and she's got these labels. Like even when things go wrong, she's like, you know what? I'm confident. I can handle them. Right? I can be on time. I'm worthy. I'm lovable. I'm sexy. I'm this. How do you think she sees things that happen in her world? Right? It's not that she doesn't experience all of these other things like Micah does, right? It's just that they have totally different windows for which they're looking at situations, that impact how they feel, right? So our goal in cognitive behavioral therapy is to get to these labels, these positive labels, and get people there, and to start being able to take off some of those labels.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and to peel them off and say, wait a minute, maybe I'm not this, maybe I am confident. See, right? And now he's cool and responsible. And that's going to help him as he views everything that happens in his life to be able to see it through a different window. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about cognitive restructuring. Okay? So if you ever want to teach this in a group setting, it works so great to do this. Get some labels, get some candy. Because people are much more willing to throw out labels with candy. But really helpful for people to understand that that's really what's happening, is that we see our world through a bunch of labels that we put on ourselves through our own experiences, through our interactions with other people who have told us some of these labels, and then we have included them in who we are, right? Thank you very much. You can take your labels. You may keep yours on if you'd like. But I said, yeah, you go ahead and take yours. Just keep it in one, right? So you got another worthy. There you are. Okay. All right. So that is sort of like the down and dirty of what we're going to do today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. Okay. So this process is really born out of the idea that cognition is what really results in our emotions and our emotional consequences. Remember last week we were talking about the stimuli response. It's not really that, there's a triangle going on. It's our stimuli, the activating event, the way we think about it, oftentimes our core beliefs and expectations about that situation that then results in our behavior and our emotional consequences. Okay? So we just want to understand that it's not really ABC, right? We're going to talk more about this, but actually, let me not confuse you now. We'll come back to that in a minute. Okay? So what are cognitions? Our cognitions are our beliefs about a situation, our assumptions about situations and interactions, our expectations, or our ideas about an event, attitudes, perceptions in our lives. I love the, who was it that said, someone said independent, that was a label that was for a good thing, right? Cognitive or independent. That's so culturally driven, right? In this culture, we're like, yes, you're independent, we empower you. In many other cultures, we're like, no, that's not what we're going for at all. Like, we're much more collective cultures that say, you know, and if you advance, then that means we all advance. So I'm going to step back, right? So we have to be very careful because it's really our expectations and our assumptions that are very much impacted by the culture and the family and the living situation, the social situation that each of us are brought up in, okay? And that can be very, very different depending on your experiences. Okay, how many of you would like to argue the fact that our assumptions about situations are what get us distracted? Right? If we didn't have an expectation of the way it should be, there's that S word, right? If we didn't have an expectation about the way it should be, then we would not be distressed when it isn't that way. Right? Yeah, we probably stop right there. Go ahead.
So does assumption, does that like include negative forecasting about like the future?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. It can be, I mean, it can be like, how many of you have been in a relationship of some sort? And there were expectations on how the other person was supposed to act. And what happens when that didn't happen?
Disappointment.
Yeah, disappointment, frustration. Hopefully we didn't get quite homicidal, but you know, I mean, some of us have gotten there at times. Thankfully, had a lot of ego strength to make sure that doesn't happen. But right, there are often times when it's just about the expectation. And then sometimes when you talk about it, you can get on the same board and say, hey, this is my expectation for this situation. Like, can we do it differently? How can we problem solve our way out of that? Right? But it's oftentimes our expectation and our assumptions that people know. My husband says all the time, he's like, I didn't realize when I got married that the expectation was that I could read your mind. And I'm thinking, why didn't you? It makes perfect sense. I shouldn't have to tell you that I'm upset. You should just magically know exactly what I wanted you to do. Yeah, it would be nice to live in that world. It doesn't happen, right? No? Okay. All right, so cognitions include all of these things, and what we're really going to do in behavioral therapy, there's two elements, and this is really important. One is we are going to hover in behavioral activation. When I'm talking about behavioral activation, I'm talking about the behavioral side of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? This is, what do you enjoy doing? I enjoy socializing. I enjoy going to the movies. Okay, can you do more of that? Amazingly enough, when we're engaged in activities that we enjoy, how do we feel? Better. We feel better. I know, it's rocket science. When we're engaged in activities we don't enjoy, how do we feel? Yeah, we're frustrated and irritated and anxious and all that, right? So, first step is always in behavioral therapy, is always cognitive behavioral therapy is always behavioral activation. Some folks don't need to go beyond that, okay? I had a client who came in and she came in and she was having some sort of some passive suicidal ideation, very functional, struggling with some depression, has struggled with depression, anxiety her whole life. She came in and she was one of those type A people who's very organized. And her life was just not as organized as she had been in the past. So we talked about that and how she could get organized. The next week she came back in with her planner. And we had talked about, like, what are the areas in your life that are important to you? And she was like, well, my family, my social activities are really important, interacting with my friends, things like that. My spiritual self is really important. I don't feel like I do enough to really foster my spiritual growth. My job is important. My health is important. I don't really spend a lot of time doing that. And really dedicating time mindfully to my health. So she came back and she had her calendar color coded, right? And so every day she had to have one item from each of the colors, right? Spiritual, social, family, her job, and health. And she had it planned into the schedule. Like, you should have seen this rainbow calendar. And you know what? She did it for 2 weeks, came back, and she's like, I don't think I need to come into therapy anymore. Like, I've gotten myself back, like, that worked for her. And I feel great because I'm dedicating time, like, I've organized myself enough. That's straight up behavioral activation. What do I need to do to feel better? Let me do more of that, okay? So the way that I teach this to clients, I'm gonna branch into CHOP, and I wore a black shirt today just for that occasion. Why I did that, I don't know. All right, so here's our CBT triangle, people, right? And we've got our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior or actions over here. Which one's the easiest to change? Which point do you want to go for first? Behavior. Raise your hand if you say thoughts. Okay? Raise your hand if you say feelings. Like, everybody's like stepping back, like, no way, right? How about behavior? Yeah. Okay, so it's much easier to change your behavior. Okay? what happens when you're mad at someone, like you're really mad, they betrayed you, you're mad at someone, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna forget them. I'm gonna forget them. And I'm not gonna think about this anymore. I'm not gonna think about this. And you think, yeah, look at me go, I'm awesome. And they walk into the room, what happens? You cannot change the way you're feeling, right? You're right back in the throes, you're angry, you're frustrated, your thoughts go right back to that unless you've done some really good cognitive restructuring, probably. Your thoughts go right back. Your actions, you can change, okay? So that's why we always start with behavioral activation to see if we can change things. Now, sometimes people are like, well, I don't feel motivated to change, right? You wake up and you're like, nah, I don't feel like doing that. I can't do it. Okay, well, that's a very sort of insider perspective. I feel this way, therefore I'm not going to act. What we want to help people do is switch that around and say, I'm going to do this regardless of how I'm feeling, because I know that if I do it, I'll feel better. Right? We got to kind of flip that. Well, I don't feel like doing that. Well, okay, no one asked you how you were feeling. Commit to doing it, and you're going to do it. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to feel better. How many of you have ever been invited to some kind of like family party or some fun thing, and you're in your bunny slippers, and you're thinking, I really want to get dressed. I really want to go, right? But if you push yourself to go, hopefully, let's not be too idealistic here, but hopefully that social interaction is fun. Afterwards, have you ever said, oh yeah, I'm glad I went? Okay. Barring something not so great happening at the party that requires you to not think that way anymore. But in general, if we push ourselves to do things that we like doing, then it's going to impact how we're feeling. Okay. Yeah.
Like, how does obligation play into this? Because, like, when you were saying, like, your family, like, my mom's one of 9, so it's always, like, it's not like I want to, like, I do, some part of me wants to go, but, like, it feels like an obligation towards my family.
Yeah.
And so it's, like, not my motivation. It's, like, my mom will be very angry if I don't go to my cousin's wedding or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of appeasing that structure, I guess, like family unit.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something to be said for just doing obligations that you got to do, right? I don't really particularly love cooking dinner every night, but I do have 5 children, and I feel a little bit obligated that the children probably need to be fed, right? Don't really want to do it all the time, but and I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a little bit of obligation. The key here, though, is that when we're talking about behavioral activation, we're choosing things that we know we want to do. Okay, so if it's an obligation and that's not something that brings you happiness, then I would say we might have to actually step into cognitive restructuring, because it's an expectation for you that we might have to look at, as opposed to, this is something I enjoy. Does that make sense? So with behavioral activation, what we usually do is we have people do a menu of things that they would like to do. I'm going to skip around a little bit here, I want to show you this. This is usually what I give people for homework first thing, and that is, I don't have them do this part at the bottom first, we just have to do the top. These scales look like the little pain scales that you get in the doctor's office. Yep, that's what it is. So what they're going to do the first couple of weeks is just track their mood. So we tell people, all right, so I want you to track your mood. 1 being like the worst day you can imagine having, like the absolute worst day you can imagine. That's a 1. 10 being the best day that you can even think of that could possibly happen. This is the day you won the lottery, you paid off all your student loans, you went and bought a yacht, and and you're on vacation for the rest of your life. I don't know, whatever that looks like, okay? So the thing is that if you have people that are coming in and they're all at a 10, you've got a problem. If you have people that are all at a 1, you also have a problem, right? This is a scale, so we want to keep that in mind. So you have them track every day what their mood is. That's all they're doing for the first couple of weeks. What's your mood? Have them track it at the same time every day. Why would you not want them to track it at different times every day?
It could be like a reactionary training.
Yeah.
Weighing yourself throughout the day is going to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. And because some people are morning people, some people are night owls, and if you are doing it at all different times, you're going to see some variance that really probably is just skewing the results here. So you want to have them do it at the same time every day. So this is the really powerful part. After they've gotten accustomed to that and they're doing their homework and they're bringing it in, then you add in the fun activity. What I usually do, I give them a list of like 100 things that they can do. I got a list of 100 free things you can do in Baltimore. They're like, go to Little Italy and watch the movie on the side of the building. You know, they do that like every once in a while. Or go to the park, take your dog for a walk, call a friend, dance to your favorite song, read a poem, you know, like whatever it may be. But you want to make sure that whatever it is that they're doing is something that is immediately within their ability to do. We're not saying, guess what? I want to go to Europe. Well, yeah, guess what? I do too, but that's not going to happen today. You know, so make sure that there are activities that people can do. All right. And you're going to have them, I oftentimes will have them just write them down here on the bottom, and then each day they're going to pick something to do. And we're actually going to contract with them to say, how many do you think you can do in a day? And we'd be like, well, I think you know, if someone's really struggling with anxiety and depression, they might say, I can do one. Okay, all right, awesome. So every day I want you to do one. And then when they come back and they've been successful doing one, we're going to up the ante a little bit. Could you do two? Sometimes when they're successful, they'll be like, well, I did 2 every single day. I think I can do 7. And you'd be like, no, you can't. Right? Maybe they can. But you want to make sure that you don't make the bar so high that they can't reach it. If they're at 2, then go to 3. Right? If they're at 2 and they were only able to do that one day that week and they did 1, the rest of them go back down to 1. You're setting people up for success. Okay? And then what they do is they track how many activities they did each day, and they also track their mood. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and never have I seen this chart not follow. When the activities go up, mood goes up. When the activities go down, mood goes down. Okay? So what you do is you have them bring back to you after they filled out those, and you connect the dots. You make them a little graph. It's very empowering because all of a sudden there's this aha moment, and they're like, wait, you know what? You mean to tell me that if I want to make my mood, if I'm really in a bad mood one day, and I do 2 more activities, my mood is going to go up? Well, I can do that. And all of a sudden they feel empowered to be able to see that they can actually impact how they're feeling. Behavioral activation, not hard. Okay? After you have them track the things that they're doing and their mood for, maybe you're at week 4 of meeting with them. You're still just working on this. Then I'll separate out, what do you think is more powerful? Social activities or more individual activities? Social activities. And I know people are always like, well, I'm an introvert. Yeah, guess what? Still social activities are more powerful. Regardless, you may need more recovery time, and that's okay, but they're still more powerful to impact your mood. So then what we do is we'll take all these activities that they've written down and we'll say, which ones are social? So if you're having a really bad day, how about picking one social activity and then the rest of them you can do as individual activities? Because you're going to get more bang for your buck by doing one social activity. You might be able to do one social activity and move up 2 points, whereas if you do 5 individual activities, you only move up 1 point, right? And so we teach them about social versus individual activities. There are some folks that when they do the behavioral activation piece, they get there, you teach them about motivation, you're going to do it regardless because you contracted to do it, not because you feel like doing it. Then they start doing it, they feel better, and they don't really, then they're like, hey, I don't really want to do it anymore. I'm good. Okay, sure. Now, have we looked into some deep underlying why they were feeling bad in the first place? Mm-mm. Do we care? Not so much, right? We've relieved the symptoms, and that's why they were coming in. So at some level, this behavioral activation is very superficial. Like, I'm not getting into dredging up where you got these labels from. I don't really want to know what happened in your early childhood. I don't really care what your attachment style is. Like, nope, you enjoy doing this? Do more of it. Is there anything about that that concerns you? Couple things? Yeah, what?
Well, if we're not getting, because it's superficial, if we're not getting to the root of the problem and we're not actually dealing with that, I feel like it's going to keep coming back. It's like putting a Band-Aid on the situation temporarily.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Or they could learn some skills to get themselves involved with things, and then they don't, that's enough for them. But you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you achieve the goals and you want to remind them to pass. So one of the goals that I think we achieve what we want from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he was mentioning, like, it's just gonna, I feel like it would just come back. And also, like, trauma and this doesn't really seem to mix to me, because you can't just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right.
Okay.
I mean, I like it, but.
And here's the thing, is that I've had people come into my office and be like, what do you enjoy doing? I enjoy drinking. Well, okay, right. Do more of that, you'll feel better. No, that's not what we're gonna do. Sometimes there's some maladaptive behaviors that feel super great that we have to be really careful because we don't want to encourage people to do those things. But yet they're like, yeah, I feel great when I smoke weed. I go, okay, right? There's all these signs now with all the dispensaries and whatnot, and it's one of them up in Cecil County, and it says, happiness, find your happiness, right? And it's a dispensary. And my husband and I, we talk to our kids about it all the time, like, society really honestly thinks, like, find your happiness, smoke weed, you'll be fine. You don't have to deal with your crap, right? That's not to say that everybody that's doing that has to deal with something, but you know, sometimes happiness doesn't just come from a maladaptive behavior and doing more of that, right? And I know that's overarching. Lots of people use it for lots of really great reasons. But to put a sign up and be like, find your happiness, like, what are we telling people? That this is the only way that you can be happy? Like, no, I don't think so. Although I do think I might get arrested someday for vandalizing billboards because they do bother me quite a bit. Like, I see the theoretical irrationality underneath of it. But anyway, I digress. So sometimes behaviors, we have to be careful what those are that we're encouraging. So we do want to make sure that we're encouraging positive behaviors. Your example was great. Sometimes we have to do obligations, and maybe that's really important. And if we encourage somebody to be like, no, don't do that. If I don't feel good for you, don't do it. And then their entire family structure falls apart, well, then that's not good either, right? Have to be super careful that we're exploring that a little bit before we start saying, yeah, don't do that. If that doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. Well, maybe not. Okay. So, yeah, these are some great critiques of what might be an issue with just behavioral activation. But for some, it works. So then we kind of circle back if they do this, and we see a lot of themes, labels, like we were doing before, coming out. Then we transition into the cognitive restructuring piece of cognitive behavioral therapy to go a little bit deeper. okay? And the way that I usually teach folks to do that is that we do the spiral. Okay, let's see, for 2, if I can get it to go again. Oh. Oh, I should have never put that down.
Sure, you gotta do it for the.
Okay. I'm like, the worst effect. I'll just use the little slider. Look, he's got confident written right on it.
You'll learn.
Wow, I am so impressed right now. Okay, so I teach people to spiral, okay? And what this is that we start here and something happens. Give me a situation. Usually I'll get someone died.
Yeah, someone died.
Okay, someone died. That's the situation. How do you feel?
Terrible.
Sad. Yeah. And when you feel sad, what do?
Cry.
You cry. What? Yeah. Okay. You cry, and maybe you isolate yourself a little bit, right? And then when you isolate yourself, how do you feel? I like it. Yeah. Then you feel shitty, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in this all by myself. I'm in this all by myself. Is the thoughts that you're having? Yeah. And then what does that lead to? Yeah. Then you feel lonely.
Alcoholism.
Yeah, and then you're like, you know what, no one understands what's going on. There's the thought, right? There's the thought. So I'm going to stay in bed, and the only way that I'm going to feel better is just have a glass of wine. And that felt really good, so I might have another. Right? And then how do I feel? Then I feel out of control, because I'm like, look, you know what I just did? Like, I just drank to make myself feel better. Like, what? Oh my gosh, I'm an alcoholic, and now I'm starting to think that. Like, I think something's wrong with me. I'm not strong enough to cope with this situation without something. Here we go. Now we're in bed. We haven't taken a shower in like a week. And there we are, spiral down. So what we're trying to do in cognitive behavioral therapy and cognitive restructuring, I should say, is spiral back up. Okay? So we're laying in bed. We haven't been out of bed for a while, and we're feeling pretty crummy about ourselves. And we say, you know what? I want to feel better. That's all. I want to feel better. Right? There's a little motivation there. What am I going to do? What was that? I didn't hear. Yeah. So we're going to, then what are we going to do?
Talk to a therapist.
Sure. Maybe talk to a therapist. We talk to a therapist and they say, all right, well, today I want you to remember to eat. Oftentimes those who are grieving, like they haven't taken a shower, they don't remember to eat. So it's like, have you drank water in the last week? No. Right? Just going to give them some subtle reminders. Yeah? I'm going to take a shower. How do you feel when you take a shower? How do you take a shower? Oh, yeah. You're like, yeah, buddy, I feel good. I think maybe I'm going to call to a friend again. Bam. Right? And then we're spiraling it back up. It's literally that easy. Now, it might be really hard when someone's really like, they're not getting out of bed, they're like feeling really isolated. But if you can find the small steps to connect the feeling, the thought, and then a little tiny action. I worked with a psychologist over at the Evelyn Jordan Center, and she and I used to laugh all the time. It was really stressful, right? We're working with folks who have substance abuse disorders and mental health issues and have HIV, right? So we're working with these people, we're working with them for years, and then someone dies. And it's like, why am I doing this? Like, this is so hard. And then you have like a month where like 5 people die, and you think, I'm not sure about that. Like, why am I coming to work? And so she and I used to joke around because trying to find the motivation. So we'd have those days where we're just like, look, the only reason I'm here today is because I got a new body wash that smells great. And when I was laying in bed today and thinking, that's not going to do it. I am not getting out of this bed. The thought of plumberry got me in the shower, right? And then I thought, this sounds pretty good. All right. Some days it's just like find the body wash, man, because that's what it is. And it's different for every person. Maybe that's not it. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's your kid has a field trip, or maybe it's whatever it is, that's what you have to tap into, because if you can start the spiral upward and connect the dots for people, then they're going to be able to change how they're behaving and the way that they're thinking, and then ultimately the way they're feeling. Make sense? Okay. So the other piece, I'm going to put it back down. So if I need it again, there you are. Okay. All right. So I'm going to scooch back a little bit because we do these kind of out of order. Thoughts and assumptions are subjective, right? Like, should I even say this? No, we know this. And they're assigned based on our own past experience. There's that social learning theory coming up. So our thoughts and assumptions are subjective. We all face what we think about the stimulating, activating event based on our own past experiences, maybe the experiences of people that we've been around. And so that's where our assumptions come from. The example I always use, you kind of have to come up with your examples that you're going to use with clients so that they're going to make sense to them without disclosing too much information, right? So these are the ones I'm going to tell you, the ones I always use with my clients. Is that, how about this? If I say to my kids that we're going to an amusement park, what do you think they're going to be feeling? Remember, that's the activating event, that's the A. The B is what they think, and the C is their emotional consequence. Oftentimes, and this is where that ABC thing comes into play, the activating event, A, we recognize, we skip over B, and we have an emotional consequence. Yeah? And then we can track it back to the belief. So oftentimes it's not ABC order, it's A, C, B. Right? Oftentimes we recognize the emotional consequence before we actually track back and think, wait, what was I thinking in that situation? Okay? So if I say to my kids, we're going to an amusement park, what do you think they feel? They're excited. Okay? Oh yeah, they are. They're happy. They're anticipating going on rides. They're really, really happy. Yeah? Now, if I tell you in my past experience that I have an awesome knack for picking the hottest day of the year, like, it doesn't matter when I go. It could be in the fall and it'll be like 103. I always pick the hottest, most brutal day to go to an amusement park. It happens every time. I'm just really good at picking horrible days. I also happen to pick the day that all of the IBM and every Boy Scout of America is also at an amusement park. Every time. Like, I don't know how I do it. So now, if those are my thoughts, what do you think I'm going to be feeling? Dread. Yeah. I'm like dreading it. Anxious. I'm anxious. I'm miserable. Before I even get there, I'm miserable. I'm irritated. I'm frustrated. I'm impatient. Yeah? I'm so much shame. Oh, no, I don't. That would be a good one if I did. Now I'm like, get on the road. Yeah, and that's my other experience. I have one 12-year-old who refuses to get on any ride. Flat out refuses. And if you force him, 2 seconds into the ride, he's like, oh my God, it's so fun. But like literally, I've been afraid they're going to call CPS while we're in line. And I'm like, I don't care if you're running, get on the ride. And he's like, no. And I'm like, and I'm looking around all the parents, I'm like, he's going to be fine. He's going to love this. He's going to ride it like 15 more times. And they're all looking at me like, right? And then it happens just that way, and then they decide not to call. But every time, but this is what I'm thinking. So I'm frustrated, irritated. I'm also wondering about the people who go to the amusement park in 6-inch heels. Come on now, right? Maybe there's some of you in here. I'm sorry, but right, and you're thinking, what if your heel falls off? while you're on that roller coaster and like pokes my eye out. Like, what are you doing? I'm also thinking to myself, I'm sure that the water that I'm standing in right here is still, it's not water. Oh, sorry. I mean, people have been on in that line for so long that they just let loose right there. And now I'm standing in it. Right, these are the thoughts that I have. So I'm cranky and irritable before I even get to the parking lot. Yeah? Okay. Do you see how it really doesn't matter what the A is? Because for my kids, it's the exact same A. But they have a very different C. Why? Because their beliefs and expectations are completely different surrounding that same situation. That's what we're teaching clients, that they can change. If we can change the beliefs about a situation, we can change the way they feel about it, okay? The situation may or may not ever change. Isn't that a relief? It's really the way we think about it that changes. Okay, if we change the way we think, our emotions will change. So our interventions then are very much based on, it's hot in here, isn't it? Like, start dripping. Okay. Cognitive restructuring, that's what we're going to do after we do behavioral activation. We're going to help people do some cognitive coping, okay, practice new skills. We're still using all of this stuff in behavioral therapy. Remember when we were like practicing skills, doing some role modeling, doing some role playing, doing some assertive communication training, those kinds of things. We're not losing the problem solving stuff. We're still going to do that. We're going to do the behavioral activation, which should be at the top. And also we're going to identify some cognitive distortions, which we're going to talk about here in a moment as well. Okay? All right. I'm going to scoot back to cognitive distortions in a minute because I want to show you this form. That's very blue. But, okay, so this is something, this is actually a form that we used in a research study using TBT over to Evelyn Jordan over the phone with folks. But I really like the way that it sort of laid out. And if you were to Google like ABC form, come up with a million different forms that you can use with clients. I actually just, before class, posted a link in Blackboard of a really good behavioral activation and TBT like module, and it has a bunch of worksheets like this that you can use. Everything that we're talking about is just laid out a little different. Okay, so ABCs, here we go. Remember that we're usually, we might recognize the situation, and we might recognize the emotional consequence, and then we can track it back to the thought, okay? All right, so, and I mean, this is true, right? And think about it for a second. Do you ever like start the day off and you're like coming along, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm really irritable today. Or I'm feeling really sad today. Like, what's going on? And then you sort of can track it back to a situation that you can pinpoint that maybe this was what kind of started it out. And then you can, with some skill, right, get back to some beliefs about it. Yeah? Does this make sense? All right. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is the example I always use when I'm training clients and in this class. And as I was leaving this morning, I told my husband it was CBT day, and he was like, oh, great, my ears are already ringing. Really good target. And so here it is, folks, okay? All right, the activating event. I'm going to ask you. I'm one of those that the entire house could be falling apart. It doesn't bother me one bit. Like, I have 5 kids. I've learned to deal with chaos. I can have to climb over my laundry to get into my bed. Like, that does not bother me. But the kitchen sink must be cleaned out before I go to bed, okay? Like, I'm not a, like, pile the dishes up person. God bless all of you who can do that. But I can't sleep if the sink is not clean, okay? And again, everything else can be falling apart, I don't mind. The other day I realized our vacuum wasn't working, and it's probably the first time I tried to vacuum since we moved into the house in last November, but you know, it's okay. That doesn't bother me, okay? But the sink, okay, no dishes in the sink. And it's amazing to me that when I wake up in the morning, sometimes that beautifully cleaned out sink has a dish in it. And I think to myself, I didn't put that there. And then I think, my 5 children wouldn't dare put a dish in that sink and leave it. Like, they would wash it right away, put it in the dishwasher. They would do something, but they know that this is an issue for me, so they would not even think about leaving that dish in the sink, okay? So basically, I can narrow it down to one supposed adult who needs a midnight snack and so he leaves it right there with his bowl, a little bit of milk in it. Ew. Right? And come on, tell me you were with me, right? It's so irritating. And so the activating event for me is the dishes. Okay? Like, I get up in the morning and I'm thinking I have my body washed, all okay, life is good, and I walk out to the dish. Okay? And most of the time, I just keep on moving. Like, I gotta get out the door, get the coffee, here we go, we're getting on 95. I don't care, keep on going. And then I get like halfway to work and I realize I'm irritable. Like, I don't usually think about anything else, but I'm like, just like, wow, I'm a little irritable. And then he'll like text me and be like, I love you. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You don't tell me you love me, like, you love me. Right? So here I am in Frustrationville. I'm irritated, I'm irritable, like, people are coming in to see me and I'm like having to meditate a lot before they walk in the door so that I don't get frustrated. So I can very clearly recognize the irritation of what's happening. Okay? So then I have to track it back to my thoughts. Now, because it's just, let's be honest, I never tell my husband this, but it's just a dish. It's just a dish. It's not a big deal. Like, it's just a dish. Okay? Now, it is amazing that we have a dishwasher right next to the sink. It takes like half, right? But okay, all right. So I start thinking about what is it that really bothers me, okay? Because it is really just a dish. But what bothers me about the dish in the sink? Well, so when I see the dish, I automatically think, do you not care about me? You don't care that I actually clean this thing out. You know that you've been married a long time. You know that I like to clean out the sink. You know that that's my thing. But yet, you continue to do it. You obviously don't care about what I care about. Uh-oh, right? And I start thinking, wait, if you don't care about what I care about and you don't see this as an issue, you really don't appreciate my time. Because you're like, I'm doing, we have a very typical relationship in that I do 300 things in a day and he does 2 and then praises himself. This is not all males, okay? All right, all of you in here, we know that that's not all of you. My husband's just a unique creature. In that he does 2 and was like, oh, I went to work and I turned the TV off. And I'm like, okay, do you want me to tell you how it's in the world tonight? It's like, really? So I think to myself, you really don't appreciate my time. Because if you did, you would just put the dish away. Because that's just another thing that I have to do. So now instead of having 5 kids, I've got 6. Right? Oh, we're getting into scary, right? So then I start thinking about that, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if you don't appreciate my what is important to me. If you don't know the heart of what is important to me, like, what's going on in our marriage? Oh, something's wrong with our marriage. But to put that thought up there, okay, so now something's wrong with our marriage, like, oh my gosh, like, are we in trouble? And I start spiraling down into, last week I had a dream that you had an affair, and I think I'm mad about that, right? And he's like, wait, I didn't even do anything. And I'm like, but I had a dream that you did. And, the reason I had that dream is because there was a dish in the sink. Because, I'm so frustrated about the dish in the sink that I'm feeling disconnected. So maybe you are. Maybe. And, next thing you know, I'm like in full tilt, like frustration, anger, and questioning our marriage. And then not only am I questioning out here what's going on with our marriage, I'm thinking, wait, I'm going to step back for a minute. If you and I are disconnected, am I unlovable in some way? Right? Like, I'm not worthy of your attention to the dish. And all of a sudden, all the labels that I got all over me from my past experiences, I'm viewing this situation through that, and I spiraled down into a very, very bad place. You see how it happened? Now, thankfully, my husband learned this lesson long ago. He does not leave the dish in the sink. I'm telling you that disclaimer, he's okay. But this is how we do it, yeah? Now, we laugh because it's just a dish that got us there. But how often do we do this? All the time. We see a situation, we immediately start assessing it, start tapping into our own beliefs and expectations about it, and spiraling down not only about what's happening in the external world, but internally, oh my gosh, this plucks my button, my core underlying belief that I'm not worthy, that I'm unlovable, that I'll never measure up, that if I'm in a situation I'll always get hurt. If someone loves me, they'll hurt me, right? And it starts getting into all these core beliefs that we as humans naturally have, okay? And through experiences have learned, okay? So, taking this example, so we literally deal with clients to say, okay, now you take an example. Let's talk about what emotion you notice, and then let's analyze the belief. The thing about the belief part is you always want to spiral it down to what it means for you. It's a great question to be asking in therapy. Okay, so this situation happened. What does that mean for you? Because you don't want to leave it out here, because then, what's the solution? My husband gets his dish problem under control. And it never comes to me, which I'm the one in the room that is able to make change, okay? Number one thing that I see that new social workers and counselors do wrong in therapy is that they listen to people's issues and things that are going on, and then they just get alongside them and be like, yeah, your husband really should learn how to do this. Well, we have no control over that. Right? There's no way for us to control that situation. Okay? Therapy is with you and the person in the room. It is not, now we can problem solve about external things, but we should always be focused on what does that mean for you, the person in the room. Don't start like, yeah, you're right, he's a jerk. You laugh, but I can't tell you how many times I hear that. Like, wait a minute, you start like aligning yourself with the, like, that might be very true, but you can't change anyone else in their life space except for them.
Yes, for me, it's very much to express your feelings, to say it out so I can be corrected. Because if you don't say it out, then whenever I give up, then I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And you don't know that this is what you're saying, because it's helpful.
Yeah, that's right.
I know that it says out too.
Right, yeah. And I don't want to be so idealistic to say that if I say this to, let's go with this example, if I say to my husband, this just really bothers me, he might just look at me and say, you know what, then I won't do it. And his little halo will show, and all will be well as well. But there's a good chance then when I say that to him, he's gonna be like, get over it. I didn't mean any of that. Like, your little story that you're telling yourself has nothing to do with reality. And, like, I'm sorry that bothers you. Maybe you should work on some distress tolerance. Probably would say that to his therapist. Yeah, so he might say that to me. So we have to problem solve with clients because, again, we can't control how other people are gonna react. So we have to fortify them, like, whatever way this works out. Yes, talk with them, you be assertive, that's where the assertiveness comes in. But it may not turn out the way you want it to. But again, then we can work on the person in the room. Yeah.
Yes, at the same time, it depends on the approach that you use to bring out
Oh, yeah.
the situation.
That's right. And that's why we work on assertiveness training, right? Because we don't want to be aggressive. Like, if I go back and be like, you know what, I think you're a real jerk. Like, why can't you just put your dish in the sink? Or if I, like, just go, and I'd love to do this, is take the dishwashing soap or the detergent and hand it to them and be like, hey, buddy, I got this for you. Try it. Put the dish in the dishwasher. Is that going to get me the result? Nope. How going to make him defensive? And then we're going to have a lot more problems. Yeah.
And then I know this is getting way far ahead, but sometimes, like, I remember I was in a relationship and I had a problem with dishes being on the sink, but my partner was like, yeah, but I come in the room and I'm tired of having to walk past Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein and all of, because you just throw your clothes all over the place. So you're upset about the dishes in the sink, but I don't complain about the clothes all over the place. Well, of course, I didn't take that too well.
Yeah, right?
You know.
You're like, hey, you can't do a bait and switch. We're talking about dishes.
Right, we're talking about dishes.
Right. I don't care what I do or you do.
And I think a lot of, I think what I'm realizing too more and more is that a lot of the package that we come out is our experiences and how we were raised, and I don't think sometimes those early experiences, we don't sometimes necessarily make those connections until we've been able to remove ourselves from it and actually go through the work of processing and
Yep. And that's why it's so important to get to the Z, because oftentimes people are just here, A, B, A, B, A, B, and they're not looking at, like, what is the real thought process behind it that's bothering. It's just the dish. They're just close. Like, it does that, but wait, it means something based on my past experiences, that's what we have to really boil it down to. And sometimes it's about negotiating, okay? I leave my coffee mugs in the car all the time. And, but he leaves his on his nightstand. So if you can't find any coffee mugs in our entire, like, there's no glasses at all, it's because they're either in the car or on the nightstand. And so when I say to him exactly that, what is with all these things on the nightstand? And he'll be like, I don't know. The rest of them are in the car. That was reasonable. It was empty. I didn't want to carry it in, right? Then we send the kids out to get them, and, whatever. But whatever. But that's part of the negotiation of, like, this is bothering me, and we could analyze why. So that's really what we're doing in cognitive restructuring. Okay? So then we go to the next step. What are some ways to think about, or some other ways to think about the situation? Remember, we're going right back to this situation, the A. Well, I could think about it as he was really tired, and he got a midnight snack, and he was so tired that he just didn't think about washing the dish. I mean, who wants to wash a dish at midnight? Really, nobody does. Now, that doesn't excuse the dishwasher right next door. And I know I keep saying about that, but it really open, put it in, be done, but whatever. But okay, so maybe he was really tired. Okay. What other possibility? I have a hard time coming up with other ways to think about it.
The washing machine, the dishwasher door won't shut all the way. Sometimes mine gets stuck, so maybe he has a hard time pushing it, and it causes him to exert a little bit more force and waste a little bit more energy, so. Well, I can give you some excuses. I can hear them all.
That is like, yeah, right? Well, okay, so that does bring up one good point that I think I could excuse, is that the dishwasher could be full of clean dishes that haven't moved away, and that makes rational sense to me, right? Because then you can't put them in unless you take everything out, and at midnight, you're not gonna take everything out, right? You're just not gonna. Maybe we were on a dish soap, or maybe the sponge was kind of gross, you know? Sometimes I don't wanna touch that sponge. Like, I'm
So concerned about waking you guys up with the noise, you know?
It could have been that, the water running.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one,
Family, you know?
right? And being a mom, like I do wake up very easily. That's actually a very good one. So there are some ways to think about this differently, okay? So going back to the beliefs though, is there, like if I think about this and I boil it down to what it means to me, like my husband actually doesn't care about my time. That's usually where we get. If that were actually true, what evidence, now we're weighing the evidence, and we're going to teach clients how to do this, okay? If it were actually true, what evidence do I have that it's true? This is supposed to be over there. So what evidence do I have that this is true? Well, there's a dish in the sink. That seems like some good evidence. Do I have any other evidence that my husband doesn't appreciate everything that I do for the family and my time? Honestly, no. So I got one thing listed there, okay? All right, so now if this evidence is not true, if this situation is not true, what evidence do I have that it's not true? Okay, well, I'm here for 14 hours on Monday, and he makes dinner and takes care of the kids and does all of that, and usually makes me a nice plate of dinner, which he puts in the microwave and not in the sink, for me when I get home. So that's some good evidence, and he really appreciates the hard work. He also likes to send me pictures of them all eating dinner while I'm in my night class. Whatever, that's another situation that I can put up there in the egg. But, right, I know that he really does, he tries to jump in, right? There are times when I don't feel like making dinner, and he'll be like, I'll just do it, and he'll make dinner. Right, he can follow a recipe really well. There are times that we have 5 kids going in 5 different directions, and he'll split himself into quarters and take them where they need to go so that I can just relax, right? So I've got quite a bit of evidence on this side saying that my belief that he doesn't appreciate my time and what I'm doing isn't true, okay? So if I know that that's the case, then I come down here and I say, okay, let's just play this game again. If this was true, he doesn't appreciate me, even though the evidence isn't there, okay? Then what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, some would say that I would just have to clean that dish in the morning, right? But if it really was that he didn't appreciate me and my time, like we could be heading for some marital strife, right? We could end up getting divorced. And it could have all started with this nice dish in the sink. Yeah? You laugh, but I have heard worse than therapy, okay? So that's where it starts. Okay, the best thing that could happen is that I could talk to him, kind of like what you were saying, and use some assertive communication and say, listen, hey, I know that it's just a dish, but when you leave it in the sink, I really walk away from that situation feeling like you don't appreciate my time. So like, could we negotiate on not leaving the dish in the sink? Or maybe I put a new sponge out for you in the middle of the night. So it's there for you. You don't have to touch the gross sponge. Or maybe I'll make sure that the dishwasher is empty so that you could put it in. Like, how can we make this not happen? Okay? So best case scenario is we'd have a conversation about it, and he would take it to heart and say, yeah, I don't want that to be the message that you're getting. Now, does that always happen? Unfortunately not. So we have to prepare people for the worst case scenario. So here's where we come up with a plan of attack. I am going to talk to him about this, and I'm going to express how I feel in this situation and the thoughts that go through my head when this situation occurs, okay? And then depending on how he responds, I'm either going to give them a big kiss and say thanks for changing their way, or I'm going to prepare myself for in the morning washing that dish before I leave. Okay? Like we come up with, or whatever the plan needs to be in that situation is one is if it works out well and one is if it doesn't work out so well. Okay? So then I can think of an encouraging thought, right? So when I'm back at the beliefs that I've spiraled down to, what could I possibly, what's an encouraging thought? Especially because when I weighed the evidence, there wasn't a whole lot of evidence to prove that he doesn't really appreciate my time. So my encouraging thought is, you know what? He might have some sort of fish deficiency issue. But he's a darn good man. And then I can make that my positive thought. So that even when A happens, my thought is, there's a dish deficiency. But you know what? Okay. I'd rather have a dish in the sink than, you know, have a man who doesn't actually respect me or appreciate me or whatever it may be. Okay? Makes sense? So what happens when the situation happens and my thought, my encouraging thought, replaces all those other thoughts that I had? My consequence is different, right? Because if I change my thought and insert my positive thought, then I'm going to not have the same emotional consequence. Yeah? Okay. So what you need to really do is come up with your own situation like this that you might be able to use with clients. Now, obviously, like, right, like this isn't a big deal. It's a good example because it helps you walk through. But think about something that you could share with clients on a situation that's not too terribly self-disclosing. And then you walk through with the client, and then what you do is you have them do it. And then you will have them walk through with their situation and help them be able to do this process. I've used this with lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And I had one lady who, she just loved it. She loved doing cognitive restructuring. So, you know, she would go home with her homework and I'd give her like 5 sheets of this and say, okay, like, do this if you need to, right? She goes, all right, good, I'm gonna do this. And then finally, we finished therapy and she said, look, I am ready to terminate therapy. I'm ready. I feel like I'm doing much better. Could you just print me off like hundreds of these? And I was like, what? She said, no, you don't understand. Like, it helps me so much that what I do now is that every time my family has an issue, I get my boyfriend, my kids, and we all sit down at the table and we fill it out together so that we can get to the underlying, like, what was the message that I just gave you, right? And she just, like, she was a master. And she taught her family how to do it, and then they were functioning so much better because they could go to the real belief. It's not the situation, remember, that is bothering you. It's your beliefs and assumptions and expectations about the situation. So if you can get to those, then you can negotiate that. Yeah? My husband will do something or he'll look at me and I'll be like ABCing in my head. The idea here is that you do it so fast because you learn how to do it, and he'll just look at me and be like, are you ABC forming me? And I'm like, yes, I am. And he just sits there and he's like, okay, let me know when you get to the bottom line. And then I'll be like, yeah, I'm good. Like, because I just went through all the evidence, realized that I was just being irrational and I can move forward, right? Or if not, he'll be like, okay, bottom line, do we need to sit down and talk about this? And be like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'll come through. Because you can learn to do this with other people as well. Okay? All right. How about we take a 10-minute break and we'll come back and do the rest. Let's scooch it back. Do it again. All right, so here we are, we're talking about the cognitive distortions. So, these really, and people use these all the time. We do this all the time. So the key here is to help people be able to identify which are their favorites, that they sort of have a tendency towards using, so that that way they can identify when they're using it and maybe try some thought stopping techniques to stop using it, okay? So, all or nothing thinking. Anybody want to give me an example here? Yeah,
It has to be this or it's not.
yes, that's right.
Like, that's the bottom line. It's very black and white.
Everything is very black and white. I'll tell my husband, when he's like a reality therapist guy. So when you talk to him and you're like, I'm really upset about this, and so what was that?
What does that mean?
So he's very much like, here's the situation, here's how your behaviors are maintaining that situation, like, get off your ass and do something different, right? Reality therapy, that's like the nutshell of like, this is what I want, this is what I'm doing, my behaviors are, you know, keeping that behavior going, or that situation going, how can I change it? And then if you say, well, I'm not gonna change it, then he's like, hey, just stop complaining about it. And you're like, wow, harsh, you know, I'm so empathetic. And he's just like, change or don't, but don't complain about it if you're not doing it. Right? He works a lot in substance use, and that works really, really well. Reality therapy works well there. But, okay, so, but he will oftentimes be this way. I'll say to him, you know, I think you should use a little more gentle encouragers for the kids. And he'll be like, no, I'm not rewarding them for what they're supposed to be doing. And I'll be like, no, we know from the research that that doesn't really work. And he'll be like, all right, then I'll leave it to you. If I can't do it my way, then forget the whole thing, right? All or nothing thinking. I'll just leave it to you, do it. And then, of course, because the therapist backs down, so that comes back around, which is always good. But all or nothing thinking. It has to be this way. If it's not, forget it. Right? Okay. I failed one exam. Or I didn't get an A, I should say, on one exam. Well, that shouldn't be incredible. All or nothing. Okay? All right. Should statements. Great leaky. Basically, in any given therapy session, just be listening for the shoulds. If you can find those and then sort of analyze where that's coming from, you'll be doing great. It should be this way, right? It's the expectation. Do you hear it? I wouldn't be distressed if I didn't have the should. Now, does that mean that we have no expectation, just like it's a free-for-all? Of course not. That's not what we're saying. But so many times people will come in and they have expectations for themselves. We're like, who gave you that expectation? Can we look at that a little deeper? Who said that it had to be that way? Well, I should be. Right? Why? Who said so? Look for the shoulds. Over personalization. Anybody have a good example of that?
Yeah. Okay, I'll give it a shot. You didn't, like when I had my hand up, you didn't want to answer my question or, you know, my comment because you have a thing against me. It's kind of like made a kind of scenario in my head, even though it's not like that. I don't know.
Right.
Like you're out for me. Basically.
Right. Like I got something. It's about you.
It is
Not
me.
about all the other people that were asking questions.
Right, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
not special.
Right.
You know, I have to be.
Yeah. There you go. That's a great example. Is that we personalize that it's all about us. When in reality, the situation may or may not have had anything to do with you. Right? Okay. That's a great example. Thank you. All right. Selective attention or mental filtering. And we just also say that if you were to put in cognitive distortions, like in Google or even read it in numerous textbooks, you're going to see lots of like the same themes titled differently. So not to worry if they're slightly different. Okay. So mental filtering. Does anybody know what that is?
So is that like, it's like, I can't think of a concrete example, but like you've taken like all the negative things that happen in an event and none of the positive things, even though the positive things might have been more than the negative things.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
concrete
a great,
example,
that's
but
great. So it's when we filter out maybe the positive and we just hold it on to the negative. So here's my example of this, right? Is that like I get up in the morning and I'm like on time and all like just flows beautifully, right? The kids are off to school. I've got my coffee. I get in the car and there's a full tank of gas and I'm driving down and I'm like, woo, this day is awesome. I am rocking it. And then I get a flat tire, right? Okay, so what happens is I filter out all the great stuff that was going on, and all I focus in on is this one thing that happened that was not so pleasurable for me. And then when I call my mom, who I always call to complain to, and I'm like, she's like, how's your day going? And I'm like, well, you didn't know. I got a flat tire, and then people or the cops drove by and didn't even stop, and then it started to rain, and I filter out all the good stuff that happened, and I hone in on all the negative. None of you ever do that, right? Ever. Of course not. Right. Yeah. So here's the thing, if you can identify that and help clients identify that, it's just earth shattering. To help people say, wait, okay, that happened. What else happened? What's the good stuff that was in between all of those stories and all of that negativity? Is there anything that positive that happened? We like to play in our house, we play the Rosebud and Thorn. Has anybody ever played that game? Every night at dinner we played Rosebud and Thorn, where the rose is like the best part of your day, right? The bud is something that happened today that you would love to have happen again. Right? And the thorn is the worst thing that happened, okay? And the great thing about it is that, yeah, you talk about like the worst thing that happened, but you also frame it within other things. So it helps you have more cognitive flexibility to be able to see that good things happen, bad things happen, and there's stuff that I'd like to see more of happen today, as opposed to just the negative, like, I don't want that to happen ever again, right? Which also just brings me to, and I know we'll talk more about this later when we talk about solution-focused therapy, but another great game, we don't just like games, is to think about what did you fail at today? This is a great game. We play it at dinner all the time. Like, tell me what you failed at today and how you're going to do it different. Because it takes the edge off of failure. It's okay to fail, people. I know. For some of you, all right, like, no way, I'm not comfortable with that. I got it. But sometimes we have to learn to be comfortable with failing, okay? I'm just gonna plant that seed for later. Just gonna chew on that for a couple weeks, because I know it's a challenge. Okay, denial or blaming. No, I didn't lie. No, I didn't say that. Or, this is my favorite. I wouldn't have reacted that way if he hadn't done that. Oh, wow. Well, he or whoever that is has a lot of control over you. That's pretty amazing. Well, but if he didn't yell at me, then I wouldn't hit him. Okay. Right? We're kind of blaming our behavior, our responses on someone else. I know all of you have like evolved way higher than that. Right? Anybody else have a good example of that one? Yeah, I would have done better if they were a better teacher. Oh, yeah. Sure. Right. Would have passed that exam. Wasn't that terrible teacher. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's not gonna happen anymore. But yeah, right? Yeah. I like this one too. And when people don't pass, like none of you are gonna have this situation, but like when people don't pass like the licensing exam, they're Getting better. Totally would have passed. Okay, all right. I didn't pass because I didn't have any cream for my coffee in the morning. Come on, don't we do that? All the time, we pick something that scapegoat it and be like, well, that was why. Okay. Overgeneralization or labeling. This is, some of these I feel like kind of overlap because sometimes overgeneralization and overpersonalization I feel like can overlap with each other a little bit. But, you know, this is a little bit of the, wow, I messed up in that relationship. So, like, I'm a horrible partner, right? Just because of this one thing, like I'm going to generalize and say that I'm no good altogether. Yeah. Anybody else can think of any good examples here?
Like you said, it's like defense mechanisms, really.
It really is. Yeah. I once talked to somebody about how this thing bothers me, and they didn't react really well. So I'm never talking to anybody about that again. It's a little bit like all or nothing, but nobody's going to be able to hear what I'm trying to say, right? So you're overgeneralizing that everybody's going to respond the same way as one person did from your past. Yeah. Okay, catastrophizing. Favorite. Love it. Right? One bad thing happens, everything's bad. Like everything is going to hell in a handbag. Yeah. My husband used to do this in school all the time. He'd come in and be like, you know what? I cannot get all this done. Like I've got so many papers to do. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to quit school. Dude, you're like a year and 3/4 in. No, you are not. It's like, I got financial aid that we're going to pay for regardless of whether you finish or not. So you are not stopping. Oh, it just, oh my gosh, no. It's horrible. Can't do it. Like, yeah, you can. So big boy pants on. Right? But that's oftentimes what it is. We catastrophize, like the worst possible scenario. Now, tell me this. How many of you don't have to raise your hand? Like a situation happens and you're like kind of like in a funk place where you're just frustrated with everything and you allow your mind to go into the natural disaster that could occur and it spirals down into, right? Like, oh my gosh. And everything bad that you can think of, you allow your brain to go there and make up this story that's just a huge, what do they call that in Shakespeare? It's like a tragedy, right? You've created your entire play tragedy, right? Come on, we do this, right? And we allow our brain to go there, and then we're like, I don't know why I'm not feeling so great. Because you have allowed yourself to focus in on everything that could possibly go wrong. Yeah? I know. Magical thinking. This one's great too. This is when we make these connections. Like if I hadn't, you know, deleted that paper, this person would have never failed out of grad school. As if there was one magic thing that happened that created the entire scenario, right? Can anybody think of any other magical thinking? Kids do this all the time. Yeah. Always. Can I tell you how many kids I've had tell me that? Right? Yeah. No. Probably had nothing to do with that. Right? I always give this example. I had a client one time tell me that she had HIV because she punched a police officer when she was like 20. She was like 60. She was coming in and she's like, this is like God's punishment to me because I did this 30 years ago. All right? Magical thinking, like, fairly certain that's not how it happened. But we connect these things together. Yeah.
So on that realm I'm like, I have a lot of patients on hospice who say like God is punishing me or that this is like a reaction because I did X, Y, and Z. But they're rooted in their religion and they fully
Yeah.
believe that God
Right.
did this.
Yeah.
So is that, I mean, is that technically a cognitive distortion because it is their spirituality and religion?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, so it's a really hard one because, again, we have to remember that people's religion and culture play into their belief system and their expectations of like how the world works and their own experience and all those things. So this is one of the critiques of CBT is that we have to be really careful that we're not projecting our own value systems, like our Western value system, on someone else. Our own religious views or spiritual views, because in our cognitive restructuring, we could be creating little drones of ourselves, right? Where that's going to be terrible, right? Because that doesn't fit into their culture. One of the biggest, and I have an article, and I'll post it on Blackboard, about how CBT works with folks who are Muslim, because there's just different, the value system's not the same. And so for me to be like, well, you're independent, like, come on, what's the problem? You need to be independent, you need to be empowered, right? That doesn't fit well with the more collective perspective. So me trying to correct that is going to bring them to a place that they're denying their own value system, and that's not what we want to do. So you have to be careful not to jump in and try to change someone's value system. You have to find what is considered a cognitive distortion for them, okay? Whether I agree with it or not, okay? Because I wouldn't want anybody to die thinking that this was some kind of punishment. But you know what? If that's their perspective, then then I need to help them find someone who can help them work through that piece, and a chaplain, someone to help out with that, as opposed to me just being like, no, right? Like, that's not right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like even severe anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't necessarily shape, what things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of these you can't. Some of them are really, really challenging to do. But that being said, I think there's a place for recognizing when we're doing this, and then deciding if that really is within your value system or not, right? Because sometimes it's not, and sometimes it could be. Everybody's so very different. That's a really good point. Emotional reasoning.
And that one, that's the first thing that you want.
Yeah, I feel like that's really a lot more like rationalization, which really isn't even on here. Maybe labeling. But yeah, that's a good example of some, I think that ties into some core underlying beliefs too, of like, if people love me, they'll hurt me. Right? Yikes. Yeah. Okay. So anybody else have an example of emotional reasoning? So this one is, I feel a certain way, so it must be true. Right? My daughter loves this one. She's like, I'm anxious because I think I'm going to fail the test. It must be true, I'm going to fail the test. You're like, I don't think you're going to fail the test. And she's like, but I feel like I am. Right? Wow. Okay. All right. I feel something, some kind of way, so it must be true. I told you about the dreams, you ever have a dream about your partner or someone you're in a relationship with, you wake up and they're in trouble. They're in trouble. And I feel like you betrayed me. I don't have any evidence, but in my dream you did, so it must be true. And this poor person is there like, why am I getting in trouble with something I didn't even do yet? Right? I feel it, therefore it must be true. Gotta be careful of that one. Mind reading, well, I know what they're gonna say. I'm not even gonna try to have that conversation because I know what's gonna happen. This one's challenging because guess what? They might, from past experience, know exactly how it's going to play out, right? So they might be mind reading, and they might be really good at it. They might be right. So we can challenge that and say, well, now that might not always be the way that this person's going to react. But that being said, what if they do react that way? What are you going to do? And help them problem solve through that, as opposed to, I'm not going to say anything. Because, you know, what comes to mind is a really good example of my mother. You're so busy, I just decided I wouldn't ask you. But wait a second. I'm an adult. I get to make decisions about what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. But you just took that away from me because you made an assumption. You read my mind that I wasn't going to be available. So then you didn't bother to ask me if I could help. So stop mind reading and let me be an adult and decide. And if I am too busy, I'm going to tell you that I'm too busy and I can't do it, right? But mind reading, I didn't bother to ask because I knew what the answer would be. You say something?
I think sometimes people do that, maybe I'm not agree, but they don't want to be disappointed. Like, I think my grandmother, like, I was using, like, there are certain people in my family who are reliable, and there are certain people who are just unreliable.
Yeah.
So people have a tendency to only ask the reliable people to do stuff, and I think a part of that is because they don't want to be disappointed when the unreliable people say no or don't follow through.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is then you put all of this weight and expectation on the reliable people, and they become bitter and jaded, and then the unreliable people just continue to skate. So then the reliable people are then in therapy trying to work that out. They
Right.
become like the people pleasers, and you know, so it creates all of these problems and issues and minutia and
Yep. And it also robs the unreliable people from the opportunity to grow and possibly become more reliable. Yeah. See, right there in a nutshell, people. That's like how entire therapy would go. Right there. Yeah, it's a great example. All because we're mind reading and because we've had past experience. Don't ever think that like, oh, well, let's just eliminate the mind reading and everything will work out perfectly. Very rarely does that ever happen, right? We're not creating this like utopia where everybody's going to respond beautifully when you stop doing something that's not helpful. Other people are still got their stuff, but we can prepare people for that.
Yeah, I think this also becomes like a slippery slope when we kind of just piggyback off of that. It becomes a slippery slope because when you start looking at the context and the mind reading, like context and mind reading and stuff, and the family dynamics and other stuff, because not every family is the same, and you can't expect that or not to be the same. Because, for example, in my family, there are people that do not, they don't have as much responsibility as other people. But they given opportunities to kind of change, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, that's the way it is in my family, and it hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
We've given opportunity, but there's no change. So, like, that's where it becomes like a thing. I just kind of wanted to say that.
Yeah, because it plays out differently for every family. And here's oftentimes where you have to hover in therapy when there's situations like that, is that it's not really the response that deems whether or not we've succeeded in our outcome, because the person who's irresponsible may respond irresponsibly. But the fact that I stepped out on a limb and didn't treat them like they were the irresponsible person, they still didn't follow through. I still have an opportunity to get disappointed, right? But I can actually grow from learning that process, even how to deal with disappointment, right? So the fact that the irresponsible person doesn't change doesn't mean that I haven't actually grown, right? Ouch! That's not what we want. We want everybody. That's, again, why we have to focus on the person in the room, because we would really like to be able to, like, well, if you could just get that person that I'm dealing with to act differently, then I would be okay, right? I wouldn't use magical thinking if the person would just change their ways. That's like layers. of cognitive distortion. Isn't that great? Yeah. So it gets kind of fun when we start identifying these, because we all use them. So this is your homework. You guys can start thinking about this. And when you do it, my husband and I will sit at the dinner table and our kids will say something, we'll just look at each other. Did you hear that magical thinking? Did you hear that distortion? Woo, okay, yeah. All right, and then the double standard. I know no one in this room ever does this. This is that, like, it's okay for you to get a B. You got a B, that's awesome. Awesome. What did you get? Well, I can't get it. Kidding me? Like, I don't get an A. We have issues. But that's so great for you. Awesome. Double standard? Yeah. Okay. All right. So just to recap, and then we're going to watch Sam, listen to me, Sam. We always start with behavioral activation. Even in CBT, we are concerned with the stimuli response. We're concerned with, basically in behavioral activation, we're setting up a reward system of positive reinforcement, right? Here's the things that you're going to do. You know they've helped you before. Let's get you to do more of those. Let's give you a reward. If you do 5 things a day, every day for a week, let's set up a reward for you. What are you going to do at the end of the week, right? It usually has something to do with food, okay? Right? I can't tell you how many people like are obsessed with spaghetti. I think numerous times, like if I do 5 things every single day and my mood is above a 3, then at the end of the week I'm having spaghetti. Like, okay, wow, people love the spaghetti.
Is that true?
It is true. I am not joking. Spaghetti is good. Some meatballs. Yeah. I don't know why. So many people are obsessed with spaghetti. You can do your own little research and see what people give themselves as a reward, right? That and CDs, but nobody ever does that anymore. Like a CD, what the heck is that? Right? I don't know, right? Okay. So that's really what we're doing, behavioral activation, and then we move into trying to look at some of these core underlying beliefs, which we spiral down from those belief systems based on our past experiences and our perceptions and expectations and assumptions. Right? Make sense? You may have any questions about any of that? No? All right, let's watch Sam. Oh.
Positive therapy, Stan. And what you need to know is in the past session, Stan has been identifying what we call some of his faulty beliefs and self-talk that doesn't always get him where he wants to go. And so in this particular session, we're going to be looking at some of the beliefs that he's already recognized and he's done some work on in his journal at home. You are not going to believe what happened this time. I finally get up the courage to ask somebody out. We get out on the date. Of course, I'm a little bit late when I show up, so that doesn't start off so good, of course. And we get out there, and I'm getting ready just to say something really nice, and I turn and I knock this drink right on her dress. And it's like, oh, you know, clumsy strikes again. It was classic. I mean, it was just the story of my life. Right there in that one little moment. So what did you do? You spilt this drink on her dress. Oh, I apologize, and I got the napkins. I was trying to dry her off. I offered to pay for the dry cleaning on her dress. I sent her roses the next day, and it just haven't heard from her since. Right. Okay. So what did you tell yourself? What was going on in your head when you spilt the drink? Oh crap! Here we go again. It was just I'm never gonna get this right. I took everything I had to get her to go out on a date with me, and then I I blow it by doing this. That's just part of the course for me. Yeah. And again, you notice you've been focusing on a lot of your thoughts and beliefs. And you've been writing them down too in your journal. What kind of beliefs you think surrounded that episode?
I'm never going to get this right. I am destined to be alone. I'm not going to ever be able to be with a woman without screwing it up somehow.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that might be a little extreme, you're thinking, a little catastrophic? I spill a drink on her and therefore this proves I'll never do it right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard back from her. It doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem too good for me. I just, I married a great woman and I've messed that up.
Okay, you say you married a great woman, you messed that up.
Right.
How'd you mess it up?
Well, she divorced me.
Okay. And that was because of you.
Yeah.
You're
I
completely.
don't think so. I mean, pretty much. I mean, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I wasn't doing very well. I was maybe drinking a little bit more than I should have, and I wasn't a good husband.
Then what do you think her leaving you in the divorce meant? What did you tell yourself about that?
Well, the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's just clearly that didn't work. It's not going to work.
Okay. So nothing I'll do will ever work.
Yeah.
So you're taking that event, the divorce, and her not wanting to continue living with you anymore, as proof that basically you're not worth it. Is that it? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does seem like pretty good evidence.
Okay. Well, tell me about that evidence. Where's the evidence that because she didn't like you or like certain things about you, therefore she was right?
What do you mean? Therefore, she was.
Well, it sounds like her judgment of you is truth. Not even willing to question that.
Well,
You're kind of thinking.
yeah, well, I've always just assumed that it was right, that's the way it was.
Yeah. You make a lot of assumptions, it seems like to me. And sometimes those assumptions seem like a big leap, that she left me, therefore this proves that no other woman could find me worthwhile. He didn't say that exactly, but.
Right, and I thought I was getting through that by going out and asking this woman out.
Right.
And I actually felt great that she said yes. Okay, and then I screw it up. It's like, I don't know, I can't win.
Yeah. And you're certain that because you haven't heard from her is because she never wants to speak to you again. Is that true or false?
I thought that. I don't know, when you put it that way, I don't know how certain I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm getting you to, I hope, kind of look at, some of your beliefs that you have about what happened to you in life and see, is that really the way it is in reality? It seems like a lot of your thoughts get you in trouble. Like when you spilled the drink, what did you tell yourself? Oh, I'm clumsy.
Right. Well, I think I even said that. I think I even said it out loud.
Yeah. And is it okay to be clumsy once in a while? No.
Well, not when I mean spilling a drink on somebody. But yeah, yes, it is okay to be clumsy once in a while.
Yeah. But you see, again, I want you to get to be thinking about your thoughts and your self-talk. You came in on yourself and said what a clumsy, person you were, and you never get it right. She'll never want to talk to you. You didn't quite say it yet, but
I don't feel like I say that stuff to myself. I don't say that to myself, but it's the way I feel. It's kind of what it feels like to me.
Right, right. Well, I want you to, we've talked about, looking at events that happen and then looking at the consequences. The consequences of you winding up feeling miserable and like you really blew it and down because of what happened. I have been down. Yeah. Right. And I want you to see that it's not the event, namely spilling the drink on her, that leads you to that, but what you believe, what you were thinking, and what you were telling yourself. So what did you tell yourself at that moment? Well, this is terrible. Oh my God, this is terrible. Yeah, terrible. Embarrassing. And is there another thing you could think about telling yourself that wouldn't be quite so critical? What's another way you could talk to yourself? It's funny. I don't know. Okay. I guess it could be funny in a way. I mean, stepping back from it a little bit, it is kind of funny. Well, it didn't seem too funny to me. It seemed very painful. Well, yeah, as you talk about this. It kind of reminds me of like the Three Stooges or something. It's kind of, yeah. But you're funny in a way. You're the stooge. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It feels like that, yeah. I wonder if you'll try something with me, because I'm trying to teach you how to dispute and debate some of these beliefs that get in your way at times, okay? Maybe you can be the tough critic that you typically are. Like, just hang in there with that belief about how terrible you are, okay? And I'll be another side of that, another belief system, okay? Okay. So give me a line. Oh, there you go again. You spilled the drink, you blew the whole night. Yeah, it's embarrassing. I did spill the drink, and I am apologetic for it, but I don't know that I had to blow the whole evening and the whole rest of my career with her. Well, but look, I mean, clearly she's upset. You spilled the drink all over her, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to take her home now because she's all messed up. It's a disaster. Yeah. No, it's not a disaster. It's uncomfortable for her and for me, for both of us. But it's not the end of the earth. I can stand it, and I think she can stand it. Go on. Okay. Yeah, but it took you so long to get up the courage to ask her out again. If you're going to do this every time, then how are you ever going to get anybody to go out with you again? But there you go again, saying you're going to do it every time. Maybe you won't do it again. You're not destined necessarily to spill drinks on her every time you see her. Well, there's no way she's going to go out with you again because you're clearly a klutz and nobody wants to go out with a klutz. Okay, let's stop. How was that to engage in that? Sometimes it got hard to kind of come up with something new to say about why it was bad that I did that. You said, and I want to challenge you on this. You said, I'm sure I haven't heard from her, and that means she never wants to talk to me again. I'm condemned to eternal klutz for it. And I'll always be this way. How do you know? Where's the evidence? How did you come to that conclusion? That you never want anything to do with you anymore because you're so despicable? I guess I don't really know. I haven't heard from her yet, so I don't know for sure. Well, she hasn't heard from you either, has she? Well, no, I mean, I just sent her the roses, that's all. Okay. Well, maybe she's waiting for you to say something. You ever thought of that? No, not really. See, you're saying I haven't heard from her. That must mean she never wants to talk to me again. Okay, I get your point. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I'm a little embarrassed though to call her or something. Yeah. Well, maybe, I'm asking you to kind of test out your beliefs rather than just assuming that she wants something more to do with you. You might just see what it would be like to call her and say, I've been thinking about our last date and I feel clumsy. But I just wanted to call again and say I'm sorry if it caused any hard feelings. And, I'd sure like an opportunity to see you again. So let's try that. Okay, so I hope you could see a little more clearly some of your thoughts and how your thoughts sometimes really get you stuck. Especially the part about, kind of not knowing what she's thinking. Right. You do a lot of assuming. Yeah. And you willing then to kind of keep a record the things you do and what you tell yourself, and bring that in? Okay, yeah, hope you will, good. Okay, I'll have plenty to write about. That's good. Okay.
All right, what did you think about that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Helpful.
For guidance.
Yeah. So here, they started out with, you know, he had an assignment, right? So he was gonna ask someone out. So that was the behavioral piece, right? Because he was gonna do it anyway, even though he was anxious. And then this whole thing, see, sometimes it doesn't work out the way you hope. And he experienced all of this because he spilled his drink. And then immediately, that was the egg, the situation, right? This thought that, like, I'm never going to do this right, I'm doomed to be alone, I'm not lovable, I'm an eternal klutz, right? Then impacts his consequences. And you can see how he was doing the ABCs with him and helping him identify the beliefs that he has about himself and the cognitive distortions, right? Make sense? So if I were to ask you what the role of a social worker is with this particular theory, what would you say? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're really doing a lot of teaching, right? Psychoeducation, and a lot of modeling of how to do it, right? Role play. Maybe even a little bit of coaching, right? Because you're kind of like coaching him along to see where his thoughts are impacting behavior, right?
It's almost kind of solution in a way at the end, you know, like where you're coming with like a, you know, solution.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Here's a better thought pattern.
Here's your, and then the action plan is kind of like where that kind of comes in. So there's elements of like psychodynamic defense mechanisms, but there's also that part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that piece is like pulled through to solution focus. We started way over here. Here's the thread, and it's getting pulled all the way through. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions about any of that? No? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna hand out to you, this is like a little just explanation of what the midterm is gonna look like, not the actual midterm, because I don't want to get tired. That's the only reason, so, there you go. But they created that since I need to pass this out. So, that's what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna read you the questions from the midterm. Yeah. Okay. So I give you this, so you come right on. But this is good. This is what you're going to have to do. You're going to be able to, you got to develop a case study and apply a specific theoretical concept, right? You're going to come up with a goal. What would a goal be in cognitive behavioral therapy? Remember that increase or decrease the concept in order to increase or decrease the symptom? What would you do?
Increase or decrease the
How about, right, well, it's a concept, right? Yeah, there you go. Decrease negative thoughts in order to increase mood, right? Or decrease depressive symptoms. That'd be a great goal. What about decrease the use of mind reading in order to increase social interaction? Makes sense, right? Someone's feeling depressed and they're sort of isolating themselves, that would make sense, yeah. want to make sure that the increase or decrease the concept from the theory in order to increase or decrease the symptom. Okay? All right. So you're going to create a goal. You're going to describe the intervention that you might do. So what would an intervention be in CBT?
You mean like behavioral intervention?
Yeah, could be behavioral activation. Could be cognitive restructuring. There you go. Right? Okay. Understanding of how treatment, the conceptualization, the role of goals is different from another theoretical perspective. And then explain why the theory is the best fit. Okay. I'm going to read too much. Here you are. Are you ready? I'm not going to read them so slow that you can dictate them. Okay? Transcribe them. So I just want you to sit with your anxiety for a minute. Take a deep breath and hear the whole of the question that I'm saying. Okay? All right. Using a psychodynamic theory or cognitive behavioral theory to develop a case conceptualization for the client in the case example. Apply the specific theoretical concept. Okay, does any of that sound hard yet? No, I'm going to give you a case and you need to apply either psychodynamic or cognitive behavioral, okay? And just to make it easy for y'all, they list some of the concepts. Really? Really? You don't even need that list. You could do it without it. If you're using psychodynamic theory, you should discuss the client's strengths and weaknesses in regards to relationships, ego functioning, and use of defenses. Oh, does that sound hard? No, not really. Okay, if you're using cognitive behavioral therapy, discuss the client's strengths and weaknesses regarding automatic thoughts, right? What we were talking about, those beliefs, and cognitive distortions, and how behavior has been learned through operant conditioning or classic conditioning or modeling. Is there anything in there that we haven't talked about? Okay, that's the first question. The second question is, based on the theory that you've selected, so you're going to select one of those and do a case conceptualization, right? Based on the theory that you've selected, develop one goal. One goal? Just one? That's what it says, so you only have to do one. For treatment, and describe the intervention consistent with the theory that you selected that may help to meet that goal. Include a brief rationalization for selecting this goal and intervention and explain how you would implement the intervention with the client. Really? Come on. Does that sound hard? We've just done this here just a minute ago. Okay? All right. That's the second question. Here's the third question. Provide 3 examples of how the case conceptualization and treatment plan would be different if you use the other theory. So if you pick cognitive behavioral for the first 2 questions, you have to flip it on its side for the third question and say, how would it be different? They're not even asking you to do another case conceptualization. If I had written this, you would have to do both. But you have to just identify how 3 things would be different. Okay. Let's see here. All right, number 4. That's what number 3 is. Number 4 is, after reflecting on both psychodynamic and cognitive behavioral theories for this case, which theory would you use to work with this client? And explain why. Well, the first one, you're using one theory and explaining how it would apply to the client. Then the third question, you're looking at it from the other perspective. And then the fourth question, you're deciding which one you like the best. Okay? And you just have to justify it. Here's the thing. we're doing it in class, right? Not really, but we are. So you don't have to have references, you don't have to pull up articles, you don't have to be like, wow, so-and-so said that doing this, but you don't have to do anything, it's in class. Just tell me based on your knowledge of the theory, why this would be a good idea and why you chose the one you chose, okay? All right, in that you also want to address if there's any weaknesses in this model as you're applying it, considering the cultural factors. We talked about that, didn't we? There are some significant weaknesses in both psychodynamic and cognitive behavioral when we think about applying them across cultures with like the value system, with the research for psychodynamics that was based all on one population, right? Okay. Okay, and then the last one, establishing a therapeutic relationship. Using the client case information and self-reflection, explain how you would establish a therapeutic relationship with this client. Discuss potential barriers to your work with the client and how you might attempt to overcome these barriers. Include in your discussion of the barriers at least one example of how your characteristics or experiences may affect the therapeutic relationship and how you would manage that. That sounds very much like countertransference, does it not? Right? What factors do you have? Maybe it's even when we're talking about like the multicultural application, right? Being very Western, I might say, empowered, so go ahead. That might get in the way of me establishing a therapeutic relationship with someone, depending on their culture. Is there anything in there that you have questions about? Yes?
So are you, like, would we be making up our own case study?
I'm going to give you a case study.
Oh, you're giving us one, okay.
Yep, so I'm giving you a case study. This is how it's going to work, the logistics. Next week, you're not coming to class, right? You're going to find yourself a computer that's not in the computer lab because it's not open. Find yourself a computer, and you're going to, from 9 to noon, be able to take the exam, okay? I'm going to open the exam from 9 to noon. You have to submit it by noon, okay? Since you're taking it wherever you're taking it, I have no control over what resources you use. Okay. So do well. You can pull up PowerPoints, you can be looking at that, whatever you need to, because you're analyzing the case. It really doesn't matter as well, because you've got to be able to analyze the case. Okay. So I'm going to open it. If you're one of those folks who are like, I've got to print off this exam and the case so that I can like highlight and write all over it, this is the honor system. So when you're done, I'm going to ask that you destroy that, okay? Because this is an assessment that we use across the board for every single class that takes Paradigm, which is everyone, again, okay? So if you think you're going to be awesome and keep the case study for another class, that would be sad, because then we'll switch to case study, okay? And you might not like the next one as much, so, okay? So please, 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 this is the honor system, destroy the exam and the case once you're done. It'll have to be, again, you'll have an entire 3 hours to do it. The thing I will tell you is that when you go in to Blackboard, it's most likely going to be under assignments, because I don't really like putting it in exams. Right, but I'll let you know if I change that. And you'll just click on it, it'll have the documents that you have. You can make a Word document, answer the questions, and then upload it into the Dropbox that'll be right there for you, okay? Just please, please, please be sure that you've got it uploaded by noon, okay? Here's the other thing I'm gonna tell you. When you click submit, okay, when you click submit at noon, resist the urge to start checking if I've graded it by 1 a.m. or 1 p.m., okay? I know how it works. I've been a student, and then start looking, right? I got 3 classes taking this midterm next week, okay? There's no way in hell that it's gonna be graded. I'm hoping for within a week, and I say that every time, and it's usually within 2, okay? But I'm gonna try really hard, but just so that you know, and you don't have the expectation that afternoon it's gonna be there, because it isn't, all right? Okay. Questions for me? I'll see you in 2 weeks. Don't forget to take me down next week.
We're not very good.
That is in the right way. Thank you. I think I got
Yes, 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 yes.